The cry inside the abandoned church. The wind howled across the small, quiet town. The sky was dark, filled with heavy clouds. Rain poured down hard, hitting the ground like tiny stones. Jonas pulled his jacket tighter and walked faster down the empty road. He didn't like walking near the old church. No one did. It had been empty for years. Some said it was haunted. Some said it was cursed. Jonas didn't believe in ghosts, but still, the place felt cold. Not just because of the rain. It felt wrong. As he passed the church gate, he heard something, a sound, a soft cry. Jonas stopped. He stood still, listening. There it was again, a weak, whimpering cry. It didn't sound like a ghost. It sounded like a child. Jonas looked around. The streets were empty. No cars, no people, just that lonely sound. He pushed open the rusty church gate. It made a loud creak. His boots sank slightly into the wet ground as he stepped closer to the large wooden doors. One of them was already open, just a little. Jonas took a deep breath and pushed the door. Creak. Inside it was dark and cold. The air smelled of old wood and dust. Rain dripped from holes in the roof. Broken pews lay scattered. Some windows were shattered. The place was dead. But the cry was real. He walked slowly, flashlight in hand. The beam of light shook slightly. His heart beat faster with every step. Then, behind a broken bench, something moved. Jonas pointed the light. His eyes widened. A small figure, no bigger than a 6-year-old, curled up in a ball. Big glowing eyes looked up at him. Not human. Skin pale blue. Hair like soft silver threads. An alien child. The little one gasped and crawled backward, shaking with fear. "It's okay," Jonas said softly, kneeling. "I won't hurt you." The child didn't speak, just stared at him with wide, wet eyes. "Are you alone?" Jonas whispered. A noise behind him made him spin around. Another figure stepped out of the shadows, taller, thin, fragile-looking, an alien woman, holding another child in her arms. Her long dress was torn. Her eyes were tired. Her arms shook as she held the baby close to her chest. She didn't speak. She looked terrified. Jonas stood still. He could feel their fear. They thought he was dangerous. He slowly took off his jacket and placed it on the ground. "I don't want to hurt you," he said calmly. "I just heard a cry. I came to see." The alien woman stared at him. Her lips trembled. Her skin had cuts and bruises. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft and broken. "Please, go." Her English was rough but clear enough. Jonas looked at the children. The one in her arms looked weak, barely awake. The other one still sat shaking near the bench, scared and cold. "I can bring food," Jonas said. "Warm clothes." "Medicine." "No," she whispered. They take us." Jonas knelt again. Who's looking for you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she backed into the shadows again, cradling the baby tighter. Jonas stood up slowly. "I'll come back," he said. "I'll leave food at the door. You don't have to come out." The woman didn't move, but she didn't say no either. Jonas turned and walked toward the door. Behind him, the older child let out a soft cough. It was weak, too weak. They wouldn't survive long like this. He paused at the door and looked back one last time. In the corner of the broken church, huddled between shadows and fear, was a mother and her 2 children, alien, afraid, and completely alone. Jonas stepped outside into the rain. He didn't care about the danger. He knew he had to come back. He had to help them. As he walked away, he didn't see the figure watching from behind the trees. A man, dressed in black, eyes sharp, hands tight on a weapon. He had found the church too, but he wasn't here to help. He was here to hunt. "Please, don't hurt us." Jonas couldn't sleep. All night the rain hit his windows, but louder than the rain was the memory of those glowing eyes in the dark, the shaking hands of the alien woman and the tiny coughing child. He kept thinking, what if I hadn't stopped? What if I had walked past that church? By sunrise, he had made his choice. Jonas filled a bag with bread, fruit, water, and a warm blanket. He added an old jacket and 2 small flashlights. Then he grabbed something most important: trust. He walked quickly, avoiding people. The town was waking up, but no one paid him attention. He reached the old church just as the morning mist still danced on the grass. The door was still slightly open. He pushed it gently. The church was quiet, cold, but not empty. From the shadows, the alien woman stepped out slowly. Her long silver hair hung wet. Her eyes met his, and this time they didn't shine with fear. They shined with worry. Jonas lifted both hands and spoke softly. I brought food, just food. Behind her, the older child peeked out again. His face was pale. His lips were dry. The woman looked at the bag in Jonas's hands, then at her children, still unsure, still afraid. But hunger was stronger than fear. She gave a small nod. Jonas placed the bag on the floor and stepped back. The woman walked to it, knelt, and slowly opened it. She took out the water bottle first and gave it to the older child. He drank so fast he coughed. Then the bread. She tore a piece for herself and gave the rest to her children. Her hands trembled as she fed the baby, who could barely swallow. Jonas sat on a bench, watching quietly. No one spoke. The church was filled with only the soft sounds of chewing and a few small coughs. Minutes passed. Then the woman looked up. You human? She asked. Jonas smiled gently. Yes, my name is Jonas. She touched her chest lightly. Mira. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. Jonas spoke carefully. Where are you from, Mira? She looked down. Her face was sad. Far. Stars. Bad people took us. Cages. They hurt. I run, with my babies. Now hide. Jonas's heart sank. Alien refugees. Abused. Hunted. Like animals. He asked softly, How long have you been hiding here? Mira raised 3 fingers. 3 days. No food. Cold. My baby. Sick. Jonas looked at the baby in her arms. The child's eyes were closed. His breathing was shallow. He stepped forward slowly. I know a doctor. Quiet man. He can help. No one will know. Mira stood up quickly. No. No people. They tell. They take. Jonas paused. Then he gently removed the old jacket from his bag and placed it on the ground. I won't tell anyone, he said. You can trust me. Mira looked at the jacket. Her hands curled into fists. She was scared. But then her daughter reached for the warm fabric. That tiny hand made the choice for her. Mira wrapped the child in the jacket and sat down. She whispered something in a strange language to her children. Then she looked back at Jonas. You? Good, she said. Different. Jonas nodded. I only want to help. Suddenly, crack. A sound outside, like a branch breaking. Jonas stood quickly. He looked at Mira. Her face had gone pale. She picked up her baby and pulled her daughter close. Jonas moved to the door and peeked outside. Nothing. No people. But something felt wrong. He turned back inside. Stay hidden, he whispered. I'll come back tonight with more. Mira nodded, holding her children tighter. Jonas stepped out and walked away, trying to act normal. But from behind a nearby tree, someone watched him. The man in black was back, and this time, he had seen everything. A meal of fireworks and secrets revealed. Night had fallen. The town was asleep, but Jonas was not. He packed carefully. Soft bread, warm soup in a sealed container, medicine for fever, a small battery lamp, and a thick blanket. He also added one small gift, a stuffed bear he found in his attic. It had belonged to his sister long ago. Now it might bring comfort to someone else. The rain had stopped, but the cold air still cut like a knife. As Jonas walked toward the old church, he stayed in, the shadows checking behind him often. Something in his gut told him he wasn't alone, that someone had seen him the night before. He reached the church quietly. When he knocked gently, the door opened an inch. Mira stood there, her face half hidden behind the door. She looked tired, but not scared. She opened the door wider and stepped aside. Inside, the children were huddled near a broken candle stand. The boy lay curled under Jonas's old jacket. The little girl was awake this time, her big eyes watching him. Jonas smiled and knelt beside them. "I brought something for you." He gave Mira the food and medicine, and handed the stuffed bear. To the little girl, her eyes lit up. She hugged the toy tight. "Thank you," she whispered, her first words to him. Mira helped feed her baby first. The soup was still warm, and as the baby drank, his breathing began to calm. Jonas found a spot and set up the small lamp. A soft glow filled the church. For the first time, the place didn't feel so cold. Jonas looked at Mira. "He has a fever, but this medicine should help." Mira nodded. "I trust you now." She sat beside him, holding the baby close. Jonas noticed her hands, thin, bruised, and shaking. "Do you want to tell me?" he asked gently. She looked down, eyes full of memories. "We lived on a green moon, peaceful, small village, no war." She paused. "Then ships came, metal ships, humans, not like you." Jonas listened, heart heavy. "They say we are rare. Good for testing. Good for trade." Her voice cracked. "They took many families. My mate, gone. I escaped, with my children. Only us." Jonas felt sick inside. She had been hunted like an animal, used, sold, hurt, and yet here she was, still a mother, still fighting to protect her children. "I'm sorry," he said softly. Mira looked at him. "You are first to say that." She placed her hand gently on her son's forehead. "You care. You help. That is rare." Jonas nodded. "I will help you, as long as I can." Suddenly a sound came from outside. Not thunder, not wind, a sharp tapping, like metal against wood. Mira jumped to her feet. The baby whimpered. Jonas grabbed the lamp and shut it off. The church sank into darkness again. He motioned for Mira to stay hidden. Slowly he moved toward the door. The sound came again. Tap, tap, tap. Jonas opened the door just a little. No one was there. But on the steps, something waited. A knife, stabbed into the wood, and a message, scratched in a piece of metal. "I know." Jonas's blood went cold. He stepped back and locked the door. Mira's eyes were wide. "What is it?" Jonas didn't lie. "Someone knows you're here." Mira's face turned pale. "But I won't let them hurt you," Jonas said firmly. "We'll find a way. You're not alone now." The baby stirred. The little girl held the stuffed bear tighter. In that moment, something shifted. This wasn't just a rescue. This was becoming a family. But outside, in the darkness, a hunter waited, and he was not alone anymore either. The dangerous visitor mourning. Light slipped through the broken windows of the old church. Jonas didn't sleep. He sat on the cold floor staring at the door, his body tense, eyes heavy, but his mind wide awake. That knife. That message. I know. Someone had found them, and that someone was close. He looked over his shoulder. Mira sat quietly, holding her baby, who was still weak but breathing better. Her daughter curled beside her, asleep, the little stuffed bear still in her arms. Jonas couldn't let fear take over now. He stood and walked toward the door. He needed to think. He needed a plan. But he didn't even get to open the door because someone knocked first. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, hard knocks. Jonas froze. Mira's eyes snapped open. She hugged her children tight. "Stay behind the bench," Jonas whispered. No sound. Mira nodded quickly and vanished into the shadows. Jonas walked to the door and opened it just a little. Man stood there. Tall. Clean boots. Dark jacket. Pale eyes. No smile. "Morning," the man said. "Name's Holt. You the one who's been poking around here lately?" Jonas kept his face calm. "Just an old building. I was curious." Holt tilted his head. "Strange thing to be curious about. Church has been dead for years, but now someone's been leaving food, lighting lamps, and last night." He smiled. "But maybe I'm just imagining things." Jonas stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "Look," he said, "I'm not doing anything wrong." Holt nodded slowly. Sure. He stepped closer. "But just a heads up," he said, voice quieter. "Rumors go around. Word is something not human was seen in this area." Jonas didn't blink. "Rumors are just noise." Holt's eyes narrowed. "Maybe." He looked past. Jonas at the cracked windows. "Mind if I look around inside?" Jonas crossed his arms. "It's just broken pews and rats. You want a tour of dust and mold?" The air grew still. Then Holt smiled again. "Maybe next time." He turned and walked, off slowly, but not before tossing something to Jonas. A small metal badge. Private Hunter. Alien Recovery Unit. Jonas stared at it as Holt disappeared down the road. His hands felt cold. He rushed back inside and locked the door. Mira came out from hiding. "Who?" "Trouble," Jonas said. "He's hunting your kind." She clutched. Her baby closer. "He saw?" "No, but he suspects." Jonas looked at her firmly. "We have to leave, tonight." Mira's face twisted in fear. "We can't run. My child is too weak, too cold." Jonas looked around. The church was no longer safe. Not for them. Not anymore. He knelt beside her. "Then I'll carry him. I'll carry both if I have to." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why? You don't know us. Why risk your life?" Jonas took a deep breath. "Because I saw something in your eyes. The same fear, the same pain I saw in my sister's eyes when we escaped war." He paused. "I was only 10. We survived because someone helped us. A stranger. Just like I'm helping you now." Mira said nothing. She simply leaned forward and rested her forehead on his shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, as the town slept, Jonas packed everything: warm clothes, food, a map, an old hunting knife, and all the courage he had. The storm was coming again, and they had only one chance: to vanish before Holt came back. But unknown to them, Holt wasn't waiting for morning. He was already watching from the shadows, and he was not alone. Running out of time, the wind had turned colder. The sky was heavy with gray clouds, and the moon disappeared behind thick fog. The old church stood like a ghost, silent, dark, and forgotten. But inside, hearts were racing. Jonas zipped up the small backpack. "We move now," he whispered. Mira nodded, her arms wrapped tightly around her baby. Her daughter, too, was ready. Tiny feet wrapped in rags, eyes wide with fear. "We're being watched," Jonas continued. "That man, Holt, he's not waiting till morning." Mira's lips trembled. "He wants to take us back." Jonas looked at her. "He won't. Not while I'm alive." Mira flinched. "But my son, he's still weak." Jonas placed a warm cloth on the child's forehead. "I'll carry him. You carry your daughter." A tear slipped down Mira's cheek. "You shouldn't have to." Jonas looked at her with calm eyes. "You're not alone anymore. No more words, only quiet movements." Jonas gently lifted the baby, wrapping him in his own coat. The child didn't even stir, too weak, too tired. Mira helped her daughter onto her back, tying cloth around her shoulders to support her. Jonas cracked the church door open. The street was empty, still. He didn't trust the silence. They stepped out into the cold night. Every footstep felt loud. Every shadow felt alive. They moved through narrow alleyways, behind buildings, across empty gardens. Jonas knew the path. He had a small cabin an hour from the town, hidden near the old forest line. That was their goal. But halfway down the street, Jonas stopped. His breath caught in his throat. A flicker of red light. A movement. A figure. Holt. Standing at the corner, arms crossed. Smiling. Jonas whispered, "Run." Mira hesitated, her daughter clinging tight. "Run!" Jonas shouted. He turned and ran in the opposite direction, baby in his arms. Mira followed, her heart pounding. But she couldn't move fast with a child on her back. From behind them, Holt shouted something. And then, the sound of boots chasing. Jonas darted through a back gate and into the woods. Branches slapped his face. Roots tried to trip him. The baby stirred weakly in his arms. He looked back. Mira was struggling, but she was close. They had to split up. He turned and whispered, "Go left. Hide in the trees." Mira obeyed, vanishing into the darkness with her daughter. Jonas kept running straight, leading the hunter away. Seconds later, a gunshot cracked the night. Jonas dropped to the ground behind a fallen log, breathing hard. The bullet missed. He peeked up. Holt was still coming, smiling. "Brave of you," Holt called out, "but pointless. You can't protect her. They're not human. They don't deserve it." Jonas stood slowly, rage boiling in his chest. "They're more human than you," he shouted back. Another shot rang out. This one grazed his shoulder. Jonas cried out but didn't stop. He ran again, ducking under branches, deeper into the woods. He had to survive. For them. Far behind, Mira crouched under a tree, holding her children close. Her daughter whimpered, but Mira covered her mouth gently. She could hear the sounds of the fight in the distance. She didn't know if Jonas was still alive, but she knew one thing. If he fell, she would not run again. She would fight. Jonas stumbled into the clearing, blood on his arm, sweat on his face. The cabin was just ahead. He turned to look back, but Holt was gone. Vanished. Jonas collapsed at the door of the cabin, holding the baby tight. But something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too easy. Then, the sound of a branch snapping. Jonas looked up. Holt stood above him, gun in hand, breathing calmly. "You tried," Holt said softly. "But you failed." Jonas stared up, shielding the baby with his own body. Then, a sharp crack. A rock hit Holt's head from behind. He fell to the ground, stunned. Mira stood there, her daughter behind her, fierce, trembling but no longer afraid. "I will not lose my family again," she said. Jonas smiled through pain. Together they dragged Holt inside, tied him with rope from the cabin supply, and locked the door. They had survived the night, but they all knew this was not the end. "I will protect you." The cabin smelled of old wood and dust. Cold air crept in through the cracks, but inside, 3 hearts were beating louder than the wind. Jonas lay on the floor, breathing hard. Blood soaked through his shirt from the gunshot wound on his shoulder. His skin was pale, his lips dry. Mira knelt beside him, her hands shaking. Stay awake," she whispered. "I'm fine," Jonas said, though his voice was weak. "Just a scratch?" It wasn't true. He was fading fast. Her daughter sat in the corner, holding her baby, brother close, fear in her eyes. Outside, snow began to fall, slow, quiet, and endless. Mira looked around the cabin. It was safe for now. Holt was tied up in the other room, unconscious, but Jonas was dying. "No time," she said aloud. "No doctor, no medicine strong enough." She looked down at him. His eyes were closing. Tears filled her own. And then, she made a choice. A dangerous one. One she swore she'd never use again. Mira gently placed her palm on Jonas's chest. Blue light began to glow beneath her skin. Her energy, her life force, flowed into him. It was an ancient gift from her people. But the cost was high. Her hands trembled. Her vision blurred, but she didn't stop. Jonas's breath grew steadier. His skin warmed, his eyes fluttered open. He stared at her, confused. "Mira, what did you—" She smiled faintly. "I told you. You're family now." And then, she collapsed. Hours passed. Jonas woke with a gasp. He sat up fast. Pain gone, the wound nearly closed. He looked around. "Mira?" She lay near the fireplace, pale and barely breathing. He crawled to her, cradled her gently. "You gave me your strength," he whispered. "You shouldn't have." Her eyes opened slowly. "I had to. You protected us. I protect you now." He touched her face carefully. "Why would you risk your life for me?" She smiled weakly. "Because you didn't run, even when you should have." He held her hand tightly. "Rest now. I'll take care of everything." Behind them, her daughter whispered, "Is Mama okay?" Jonas turned and smiled at the little girl. "She's very brave. Just tired. She'll be okay." The little girl walked over and hugged Jonas softly. "You're brave too," she said for the first time in days. Jonas let himself smile, but that peace didn't last. A loud thump came from the other room. "Holt." Jonas rushed over, grabbed a wooden plank and opened the door. Holt was awake, sitting against the wall, hands tied, blood on his forehead. But his eyes were sharp. "You can't protect them forever," Holt said coldly. "Someone else will come, someone worse." Jonas didn't blink. "Then let them come. I'll protect them until my last breath." Holt smirked. "You think you're a hero? You're just delaying the end. They don't belong here." Jonas stepped closer. "They belong wherever they're safe. And right now, that's with me." Suddenly, Mira's voice came from behind. "Let him go." Jonas turned. "Mira, no." She stood weakly, one hand against the wall, but her eyes were calm. "He's just a message. If we fight him, more will come, but if we let him go, wounded, shamed, they may not return quickly." Jonas didn't want to agree, but she was right. They had to disappear, not declare war. He nodded slowly. That night, they dragged Holt deep into the forest and left him with a warning scratched into his badge. "Touch them again, and you won't walk away." Back at the cabin, Jonas cleaned the place, made food, and sat beside Mira and the children. He looked into the fire and spoke quietly. "I've always been alone. After the war, after losing my family, I thought I'd never care again." He looked at her. "But now, you've given me something back. Purpose." Mira leaned her head on his shoulder. "I was lost too, until you heard our cry." Snow continued to fall outside, but inside they were warm, together, for the first time, not just surviving, but belonging. A new home for the broken ones. Spring came quietly. The snow melted, and green touched the earth again. The trees whispered with new life, and the birds returned, singing soft songs of peace. Far away from the busy roads and curious eyes, a small cabin stood among the hills. Smoke rose from its chimney. Laughter echoed inside. Jonas sat on the wooden porch, carving a piece of wood with a small knife. His shoulder, once torn by a bullet, was strong again. His face held a quiet smile, the kind that came from finding something long lost. Behind him, the door creaked open. Mira stepped out. She no longer looked frightened or hollow. Her eyes still held sadness, but now they also held hope. She wore a simple dress Jonas had made from spare cloth. Her silver hair fell gently on her back, and her cheeks were no longer pale. In her arms, the baby boy giggled softly. Stronger, now smiling often. Jonas looked up. "He likes the sun," Mira smiled. "He likes you more." The little girl came running out next, laughing, chasing a butterfly with the stuffed bear still clutched in one hand. Her giggles were light and real, the kind children make when they forget what fear is. Jonas watched her for a moment. "She calls this place home," he said quietly. Mira nodded. Because it is. They sat together on the porch watching the children play. Mira leaned her head gently on Jonas's shoulder. You gave us peace, she whispered. Jonas shook his head. You gave it to me. I was the broken one. Mira looked at him. We were all broken, but not anymore. Suddenly, a sound broke the peace. A distant hum. A ship? Jonas stood quickly, eyes scanning the sky. Mira grabbed the children and pulled them close. But it was only a cargo hauler passing far overhead. No threat. Just another traveler in the sky. Jonas exhaled. They don't know we're here. Let's keep it that way, Mira said softly. Later that evening, inside the cabin, the fire crackled warmly. The room was filled with soft light and the smell of stew. Jonas placed bowls on the table while Mira rocked the baby near the hearth. The little girl climbed onto Jonas's lap. Tell story, she said. A story? Jonas asked, smiling. Yes, tell the one when you found us. Jonas looked at Mira. She smiled. She likes that one. He cleared his throat. Once upon a time, there was an old church, cold, empty, forgotten, but inside there was a cry, a small sound, lost in the dark. He paused and touched the girl's cheek. And a man heard it. He followed that sound. He thought he was alone in the world, but when he opened that door, he found a family. The little girl smiled. That was you, she whispered. Jonas nodded. Yes, that was me. The baby let out a soft coo, as if he understood the story too. Mira stood and walked over. She knelt beside Jonas and placed her hand over his. You saved, she said. Jonas looked into her eyes. No, you saved me. Outside, stars began to appear one by one. The cabin stood quiet and strong in the gentle night. No fear, no hunters, no more hiding. Just 4 souls who had lost everything and found each other. Epilogue. Months later, no one in the nearby towns remembered the strange man who once walked alone. No one asked about the old church again. And Holt? He never returned. Some say he vanished in the forest. Some say he was found tied to a tree with the word mercy carved into the bark above his head. But in a cabin far from roads and rules, a new kind of story was written. Not of war or fear or being hunted, but of healing, hope, and the quiet power of a human heart that chose love over fear. He had only followed a cry in the dark, but what he found was a home that would never let him go.